Hello and welcome to episode 98 of the Disney Park Princess podcast. I don't have to wait for them to point at each other this week. I'm Sarah.
I'm going to point at myself anyway. I'm Sharla.
And Heather is not with us because we should come up with some really good story about where she is. But frankly, she's on vacation.
Yeah.
She's on vacation.
That's a great story because she's on a beautiful place.
She's on vacation. Yep. She's in Cabo, enjoying a few days of getaway, and we are not jealous at all.
Very jealous.
We are completely jealous. But we're glad that she's having such a good time in the resort that she's at. Looks absolutely beautiful. So glad that she is able to get away because that is just not a thing here in Connecticut right now. Not allowed. Although they actually did just take California off the list of restricted places. So
interesting.
She could come here if she wanted to, but
why would she want to go there when she could go to Cabo?
It's beautiful here right now. It is absolutely gorgeous. Don't you?
Yeah, but you know how she hates how cold it gets there. So
I know, but she likes fall. She likes all things pumpkin and apple and pumpkin spice and
True.
Yes. So anyway, so Heather's not here. So it's just the two of us this week. So we are not going to do our favorite attractions at Animal Kingdom because we didn't want to do it without Heather, of course. So we decided to talk about one of our favorite topics, Disney Cruise Line.
Unfortunately, it's not a super duper happy thing since we don't know
because we can't
what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. But first, before we get into Disney Cruise Line and what's happening with Disney Cruise Line and all of that, we have a giveaway. Yay! So we have new merch. We have face masks and coffee mugs and tote bags, and I added a men's t-shirt because I got some feedback that our stuff was too girly, which I reject the premise that pink is just for girls, but I understand not everybody's a pink person and that's okay. Phone case, all kinds of stuff. Yes. So we are giving away sort of a prize pack of different merchandise items to a lucky winner. We had 119 because there was a duplicate entries. And so Sharla is we're doing this live. I have the spreadsheet right in front of me. I can see 120 entries. Sharla uses a randomizer website. She just puts the numbers in. The randomizer picks a number and then she tells me what it is.
All right, ready?
I'm ready.
All right, generate. Number 106.
106 is Sherry Koss. Sherry Koss, you are our winner. I have everything I need. I have what kind of phone you have. I have your email. I have your address. Fantastic. So congratulations, Sherry. Keep an eye out for your prize pack. It should be coming in the next couple of weeks. They print the stuff on demand, so it's not like instant or anything. It might take a couple weeks, but congratulations. And I will be emailing you to follow up and let you know that you are our winner. So yay! Please take pictures when you get all your stuff. Let us know what you think about it. Share it on your social media. This is one of the ways that we are hoping to sort of monetize our podcast, which is never a fun topic to talk about, but it is the reality of doing this type of work. Is we've for 2 years now essentially been doing this for free. And if we want the podcast and the website and all that stuff to continue, it just can't be for free forever. So we have a bunch of things that we're working on. Sharla and I actually have a couple of projects that we're working on. We're going to be talking about the two of us and hopefully announcing over the next few months. So but one of the ways that you can support us and keep this content going, if you enjoy listening to us every week, and we really hope that you do, because we really enjoy talking to you and interacting with you on Facebook and Instagram and all those places. You can purchase merchandise. You can support us on Patreon. And if you aren't able or don't want to contribute financially, that's okay too. This podcast is going to stay free, but you can share, you can you can write reviews on iTunes. There are a lot of different things that you can do to help us sort of grow our audience and continue to make money and continue to provide newer and better and more content for you guys. So very cool. Congratulations, Sherry. We are going to continue to do different types of giveaways. This just happened to coincide with our merchandise launch. So, but we've got all kinds of little goodies and things in our Disney collection that we're planning on doing. So, all right. Very exciting. So stay tuned. Coming up next, all things Disney Cruise Line. What's going on? What's happening? And what does the future look like for Disney Cruise Line? Okay, let's get into it.
All right. So first, big time disclaimer, we don't know when it's going to sail again. We do not know. Nobody knows.
Nobody, not even Disney Cruise Line.
No, we are, this is a lot of speculation here. This is our opinion as travel professionals, as people who read a lot of stuff on the internet.
Too much stuff.
This is our opinion. But that's all I want to say, because we do not know. All of this we can record, all of the stuff, and then tomorrow they could come out with some sort of announcement.
Oh, and they will. And that's what always happens. As soon as we record one of these things, literally, like, it'll drop in an hour later and they'll make a huge announcement. So, but first of all, can we just take a little moment, like a little moment of silence, a little moment of reflection, because this is the first year in like 3 years that you and I are not planning to go on a cruise.
And we were watching a movie the other night, and I thought, man, that would be a great costume for Sarah and me.
Oh, I know.
Next year we have to go on a Halloween cruise.
I am so sad.
I know.
Like, I love our Halloween cruises, but
I know.
And I was hoping this year Heather was going to be able to come too, but no.
I know.
I'm so sad. All right. So just a little moment of silence for that. And for everybody that's had to cancel, because we are now officially, it is 6 months today, basically, since the world fell apart.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
And I saw a thing this morning that said Disneyland has been closed for 6 months. And I was like,
6 months cruises since March 15th.
Yeah. I mean, we've all had friends, clients who have had to cancel multiple cruises. it's
For those of you watching on YouTube, we just got a special guest appearance. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out right now.
Okay, I have to kick her out now.
No, leave her.
She's done. She's done. She wants to leave.
Charlotte's cat just decided to come up and co-host on the podcast. I
knew that was going to happen when she stayed on my desk when we started.
I'm the one that owns 5 cats. She's the one that has a cat appear on the podcast first. I love it.
That was Katie. Hi, Katie.
Yeah, Katie and Regina. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not even going to cut that out. That's funny.
No, leave it. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. Yeah.
I don't even know what we were saying. Oh, 6 months since everything. So I've had, clients with 3 or 4 cruises that they keep saying, okay, we're going to go here now, and then that gets canceled. Now we're going to go here, and now that gets canceled. So
I have a client, and I think she listens to the podcast, so she'll know I'm talking about her, but I'm not going to give away any information. But I think she has had, she's up to 5. Yeah, she's up to 5. This next, it might be 6, but she's up to 5 right now.
Yeah. Because
it's 6. It's 6 trips.
Gosh, and it's not that people had booked that many originally. It's that they, had moved it, and then they moved it, and then they moved it. So.
Keep rescheduling in the hopes. Hopes. So let's get into. Well, let's talk about what we do know.
Okay.
So yesterday, the Chief Financial Officer of the Walt Disney Company did, I don't know if it was a press conference or an interview, but she talked about, she confirmed that Disney Cruise Line will be the last Disney destination to resume operations. And she also confirmed that the Disney Wish has been delayed.
Oh.
We do not know how significantly, but Meyer Werft, the shipyard where it was being built, we pretty much already knew that, but it was the first official statement from Disney sort of confirming that information. So
sad.
It's so sad. But also you need to think about the fact that cruise lines had to repatriate most of their crew members back to their home countries. In order for the cruise lines, and if you've been on a Disney cruise, you might have noticed that a vast majority of the crew members on board are not U.S. nationals. They're from all over the world, which is, to me, one of the best things actually about the cruise, because you get to meet so many amazing people from all over the world. So they not only need to consider when the CDC will allow them to sail again, they also need to consider how long it's going to take to restaff.
Yes. And then there's also the thing of now I can't remember the term for it, but basically the cruise ships themselves are not just turned off and in the docks in a port somewhere.
Right.
They are
actively sailing.
they are sailing, but they are to like a minimum capacity.
Yep. Skeleton crews.
Right. But not just that, they have to still remain somewhat operational in their lights, their toilets. It's somebody.
Did you watch the same video yesterday that I watched?
No. But as my husband says, it is somebody's job to go in to every stateroom and flush every toilet every day, because as we've talked about this recently, there are some things that go wrong.
Have to keep running. Yep.
They can't shut everything down. Otherwise it takes months to restart everything.
Yep. I was watching an Instagram video yesterday. Captain Kate, who is the captain of the Celebrity Edge that you and I have both been on. Captain Kate is lovely. I met her last, on our last cruise on Equinox, actually, when she was still there. She is down to a crew of 300 people, I think is what's left. And yes, every single day, they have a routine where they go through every single stateroom on the ship, and one person goes through and does what they call open, which is flush the toilets, turn all the faucets on. I don't know if it's every day or if it's once a week. It might be once a week. And then the closer comes in and then puts all the blinds down, flushes the toilet once again, turns off all the faucets, and so on and so forth. And she said, like, for example, like one of the biggest suites on the ship has 13 water sources.
Oh my! Just
in that one suite. So you have to make sure that every single one of them is getting right. So it is a process.
Yeah.
And it's, it's not that simple to just be like, okay, and now we're sailing again.
And still, I think 300 crew is a lot of people. I mean,
it is, but compared to what they're normally.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that it takes 300 people on that ship, which is not even the biggest ship. It's not
a mega ship. It's big, but it's not like,
Right. It still takes 300 people just to operate it at the bare minimum. That's crazy to me. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. And I'm very happy that those 300 people can still be working and still be.
But also think about it. They haven't had a break. There's no vacations. There's no days off. There's no typical, typically a cruise line's crew has scheduled days off or they have they're on a limited term contract, and then usually they might work for 6 months and then go home for a month, or there's been none of that.
Or port days to get off the ship.
Right.
And so I don't know how they are getting supplies to the crew and stuff like that. I'm sure they go to port.
They're tendering.
And they figure it out.
Yep, they're tendering. So typically, for example, Royal Caribbean, Disney Cruise Line, you can actually look. There are some fun, if you Google where are cruise ships now, there are some fun interactive maps that'll actually show you exactly where all of the cruise ships are. And so you'll notice, for example, certain cruise lines keep some of their ships all together so that when they're trying to supply the ships, it's easy for them to get to each ship just by tendering. And so sometimes they'll bring the bulk of the supplies to whatever the closest ship is, and then that ship will then send a tender out to the other ships.
Which is, what? That's a good way to do their lifeboat drills too.
It is.
They're still having to do that too.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And that's the other thing. Safety doesn't stop. Those ships are still at sea, and so they still have to do drills, and they still have to do all of their safety checks, and they still have to do all kinds of stuff. So it must be, it's funny. Every time I start to feel a little bit sorry for myself, or think oh boy, it's a tough time to be a travel agent, somewhere in the back of my brain, it's it could be worse. Yeah. I could be a nurse. I could be a first responder. I could work in a hospital. I could work on a cruise ship. I could work on there are so many different ways in which people are being impacted every single day by the current situation. And mine's really, at the end of the day, not that bad.
Yeah. Well, it's just crazy how it's just global, and we just don't realize it until we think about every little thing, not just the cruise lines, but what about the cruise lines? They'll be okay, but what about the
it's the sound of me knocking on wood.
The shore excursions, shore trips, who we've recommended for years, they're having a hard time, and they contract with local suppliers or local tour companies and things like that. So it's tough.
It really is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about when we hope that the cruise lines might start sailing again, and what we think that's going to look like.
Right. Well, right now, as of press time, recording time, cruise lines are basically shut down through the end of October.
Per order of the CDC. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Some cruise lines have opted to shut down even beyond that.
Right. However, like the major cruise lines right now, unless, Royal Caribbean and Celebrity are not doing Australia and New Zealand for the rest of the year.
For the rest of 2020. Mm-hmm.
Right. But for right now, for all intents and purposes, Disney Cruise Line is what we're going to talk about mainly, but the other cruise lines are basically saying we're hoping to start up November 1st. Will that happen? We do not know.
Yeah. We do know that Disney Cruise Line has removed most of their November schedule from their website. Like you can't book a November cruise right now. And some of the early December cruises have disappeared off their website. Right. Now, that could be because they are planning to sail those cruises, but they don't want any more passengers on them because of capacity restrictions. Or it could be because they're suspecting that they may not be sailing.
Yeah. And we don't know which that will be. That's another thing is not only when are they going to sail, but what happens if a ship is sold out and they are going to sail? That's a whole other question, because
that's the other piece of information that we do sort of have to some degree, because the Port Canaveral guiding body, whatever the, I don't know what the word is, but Port Canaveral and Galveston, I believe, have made some announcements about what their requirements are going to be for when the cruise line industry does resume. And they have talked about things like 50% capacity. Yeah. Now the cruise lines have not responded to that really in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, what happens if you do have a cruise that is supposed to sail out of Port Canaveral, but is already more than 50% sold?
That's a real good question.
We don't know.
And how do you choose? Like if a ship is sold out even, and then it's chartered, they just move everybody and they give them a good offer and they move you.
Yep.
But is this going to be kind of like, it's 100% full and they need to reduce it? Is it going to be kind of like a airline situation where they say we've oversold, here's something to go on a different
maybe
go on a different one? I don't know. And then what happens when not enough people volunteer for that? And it's been so long, I don't know how many people they'll have volunteer. Yeah. Maybe they'll have a lot, maybe they won't, but they're going to have to.
Yeah. We don't even know if this is even a concern actually, because for all we know, Disney does not disclose we have no idea how well sold these ships are, particularly the ones that they have stopped accepting bookings for, which is what we're talking about here. Certainly we can look and see how well sold later cruises are in December and January and February and so on and so forth. But for the cruises we're talking about in November, we can't even look right now and see what the inventory is. So this is pure speculation. Again, rumor, speculation. Don't call Disney Cruise Line and say, well, Sarah and Sharla on the Disney Bar Princess podcast said that you're going to make me an offer to, no.
Yeah, we just don't know. But I think there's going to have to be something that they're going to have to do.
That's my suspicion. Yeah. And again, we have seen this, like Sharla said, and if in case a lot of people aren't aware that that's even a thing that happens, but it doesn't happen very often on Disney Cruise Line, but it does happen on occasion where a very large company or Disney itself will charter an entire sailing. For a good example. The only example that I can really think of that most people would know about is like if they decide to do a DVC members cruise, like a Disney Vacation Club members cruise, and for whatever reason they didn't make arrangements for that before that time frame started booking. It has happened in the past. Where people have already booked a cruise that turned out was going to be a DVC member only cruise and then had to be rescheduled. And so typically you get some sort of perk for your trouble. Like, I know you wanted to go on the September 20th cruise and we're still very sorry, but that's not going to be a possibility. So here's a discount or an onboard credit or something to go on the next one or whatever it is,
Right. And it happens, I think, more with other cruise lines than with Disney.
It does happen much more frequently with other cruise lines.
Yeah. So if anybody works for a big company that wants to charter a ship, you can email me. And
Sharla
that is like life goal.
Don't email me, email her.
That is like life goal to charter a ship. But yeah, it happens, and it does happen with Disney. And you may get bumped, and that's in their terms and conditions. It's not likely going to happen.
No,
but
I've had, in 13 years, I think I've had it happen to one client one time. Like it's not
exactly.
It's not common with Disney Cruise Line.
It's not.
And really, the only company that would ever do that with Disney Cruise Line is Disney.
Yeah.
So other cruise lines, though, it's not unheard of at all for a company, or like, you'll see like, the Oprah cruise or the whatever, those are chartered cruises, the boy band cruises that go out, the NKOTB and the, all that sort of stuff. Those are chartered cruises.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then we could get into all of the deals with that. Yeah,
but we digress.
Yeah. So another thing to think about is, will the itineraries be affected when they come back? Will the 7-night cruises become 4-night cruises, or will they skip certain ports of call?
Yep.
Maybe all of that.
Not every island is necessarily going to open up and start welcoming passengers at the same time. Not every country, not every, you know. Yeah.
Exactly. And the private islands too are going to be affected by that, because like most of the private islands, Disney's is, Royal Caribbean's are, they're mostly in the Bahamas.
Right.
So
they are subject to local law.
Exactly. Yep. So now, will the Bahamas say, well, Nassau is closed, but you can go to Castaway Cay? Maybe. Again, we don't know. Yeah. So
let's talk about what we think the shipboard experience is going to be like when cruising does resume. Now, I want to put a big caveat in front of this, because everybody knows this, I tend to be a bit of an introvert anyway. So my happy place on a cruise is basically left to my own devices. But social distancing, and Disney Cruise Line has confirmed this, social distancing, masks, reduced capacity, those are all going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. Do I think that you're going to need to wear a mask to go swimming? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think they could do that. Do I think it's a possibility, though, that they might just close the pools?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the shows? That is, now if there's 50% capacity, they can spread people out in the theater.
I feel like they might be able to do those. But then it's a question of the performers.
Yeah.
The safety of the performers and things. Things like bingo, tastings, I think will be affected. I'm not saying they'll be canceled. I just think, and we're not saying these things are going to be done away with necessarily, but they're not probably going to look the way that they did prior to the pandemic.
Well, think about it. When Walt Disney World reopened, they, things are closed now. There's no shows, or less shows. There's distancing on their attractions and things like that. It's going to be a different kind of thing. And Disney Cruise Line may not have an exact plan yet. They probably have
they don't.
Something.
I guarantee they don't. They have an idea.
But things are going to depend on what the CDC says and what I guarantee you it'll also depend on what the other cruise lines do.
Yeah.
They'll probably talk to each other somewhat.
So let's talk about that, actually, because I think that's going to be an interesting thing. I know with Walt Disney World, everybody was sort of startled when Universal opened weeks before Disney did. Do you think the same thing is going to happen with the cruise line?
Yeah. I do.
I do too.
Because Disney, well, first of all, with Universal, I guarantee you they just watch them. Universal and SeaWorld and Legoland, which is way smaller, but they opened and Disney was like, let's see what happens. Yeah. And I think Disney also wanted to see, is this going to be successful, or are they going to have to shut back down before we reopen?
Yep.
So in the case of the other cruise lines, Royal Caribbean and Norwegian and Celebrity, they've all kind of joined on this healthy sail panel, and they're trying to work together. Yeah. And I didn't see Disney in any of that. Not saying that they're not working with them, or they're not trying to help. Yeah. In other ways, but I really think that Disney's going to wait. For a cruise line company, they are smaller. They only have 4 ships versus, 30, 40 ships with some of the other ones. Yep. It's definitely going to look different. And I think that they might just wait and see what happens. Again, my speculation.
Yeah. Do you think cruise lines will sail in 2020?
No, I do not.
I do not either.
Sorry to my clients who
I know
are hoping. I mean, look, I want them to.
I have not given up hope.
No, right.
But realistically,
no, I don't.
I don't think there's a way to get all of the crew back and get the ships back up and operational and get the, I don't think it's logistically possible. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Oh, no, I hope I am.
Wrong.
Well, so it's today. Okay. So right now you're listening to this on September 16th. That leaves 14 days. No, it leaves 30 plus 14 days. Sorry, 44 days. Sorry. 44 days to start sailing for that November 1st date. Yeah. If they decide right now that November 1st is 100% the way it is. And I just don't see how how they can do that. I don't see how they can decide 100% for certain that they're starting up November 1st or whatever day,
Yeah.
I think it's going to take some, and I don't think that it's all going to be like, okay, we're all starting on this date. I think it's going to say this particular ship is going to start up on this day. And then we're kind of going to go from there.
Yeah.
I believe that.
It's going to be, and I think some cruise lines I think it was Norwegian or other cruise lines have confirmed that they do not plan to be back up to full capacity with all of their ships sailing until late 2022. But, it'll take that long to get back to what they were on March 1st of 2020. Yeah. It's going to take a long time to ramp that back up.
And then another question that we've had is, what will the different food venues look like? And I can speak to this a little bit because we were on the next to last cruise on the Disney Dream. Yep. And in the middle so they sailed 1 3-night sailing after we got off the ship. And they said, in the middle of our cruise, they said, the WHO has declared this a global pandemic, so we're going to change some things. And what they changed were, at the buffets, we no longer served ourselves. They served us. At the ice cream station, same thing. They served us. Disney Cruise Line has those drink machines on the top deck. They served us. We told them what we wanted. And even at Paulo Brunch, which is a buffet for part of it, they served us. You just pointed and they served it. So that's one thing that they could continue to do. Yeah.
I feel is a veritable certainty.
Yeah. Like they could also close the buffet, like cabanas. They could close it and make it a sit-down meal, like it is at dinner.
Like it is at dinner,
right? They could do that. So will they do that? I think they probably will, and that may be even a permanent change.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see the buffets become more like a food court option. That's sort of my suspicion, is more like an expansion almost of the quick service offerings almost, but we'll see. But yeah, the days of serving yourself, I think, are over, and maybe for good. There are certain things I think are going to, I'm fine with that. Like I'm completely fine with that. Yeah.
Well, you go in, it's funny, like you go in and you wash your hands, or, they either at some of the buffets, they have a sink and you can physically wash your hands. Some things they give you a wipe and all of that. But then you go into the buffet and you're all reaching for the spoon and you're all doing that same thing.
Yeah, they're not wiping the spoon off in between every single part. Yeah, exactly. Well, they are now, I bet. They will be now.
Yeah. But what I always do is I always go get my food and then I go get another wipe or something, or like take 2 with me and put one on my tray. Yeah. Because that's just what I've done for a long time, because to me, it's just funny that you wash your hands as you go in, but not after you touch all of the things that everybody else has touched.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have a feeling that that's going to be something that changes for good. Now, it will probably look different when they first reopen than will in the future. But I think the ways of the traditional buffet are pretty much going to be gone.
Yeah. So given all of this, we should talk about check-in, because I think port check-in is another thing that's going to look really different. Yeah. And you can talk, no, because it started in the middle of your cruise. I was going to say, you could talk about that a little bit, but the temperature checks.
They did take our temperature when we got on the ship.
Okay. They did.
They did. which we knew right before we went down there that they were going to take our temperature. Now, of course, at that point, we did not know they were going to shut down completely right after.
Yeah, but yes, little did you know.
Right, and all it was a simple temperature scanner like they're doing at the parks and schools and a lot of places now.
Yep.
And it was very simple, very easy. What we heard was if you had a temperature, they sent you for secondary screening.
Yep.
You had a certain fever, but we didn't have that to deal with.
Yep.
But one thing that they are going to change, and they've kind of already said this, is that you will have a port arrival time that you have to stick to.
Yeah. Once upon a time, Disney Cruise Land, those port arrival times were a little loosey-goosey. You know.
Not anymore. I've never paid attention to that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I never have. And
they only apply if you weren't using Disney Cruise Line transportation. If you were using Disney Cruise Line transportation, port arrival times didn't apply to you. I rarely use Disney Cruise Line transportation. I almost never pay attention to my port arrival time.
So. Now that leads to the question too of, let's say you and I are going together and we're in different rooms and I have the higher status, so I can check in a few days before you. Yep. Therefore, I have an earlier port arrival time.
All of this is completely true. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, but I mean, like, so I have clients who the parents are one status and they got to check in, and their adult children in the other room didn't get to check in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, you could go together. But now I'm like, ooh,
normally,
yeah.
No.
So that's a question that is going to have to be addressed. So
yeah, because that's a very common scenario, especially with Disney Cruise Line, where you'll have, maybe parents or grandparents who are platinum and kids and grandkids who are gold or silver, or maybe first-time cruisers. And yeah, so
that's exactly the case.
That is going to be a very real situation that's going to need to be addressed.
Because in the past, we could just go together. You could just go with whoever had the earlier time, and that was not a problem.
Yep.
But now, are they going to enforce that early time? What if we have it, whatever the earliest is, but we don't arrive in time?
Right.
Then it's going to make things backlogged and things like that. So interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting to think about. Now, again, with reduced capacity, that may be less of a concern.
Right.
But still, everybody's instinct is to get on that ship as soon as is humanly possible because you're paying for it, right? You want to be there. Right, start getting that stuff that you're paying for as soon as possible. And I completely understand that. I think port arrival times are going to be really very strictly regulated.
And here's why. For anybody who's never been on a cruise or hasn't been in a while, or you don't think about it, you arrive at the port and you go through security and you check in, and then you just kind of wait around. So you're milling around this port, and generally it gets kind of crowded when it gets time to board the ship.
Oh, it gets as soon as they start boarding it's just a mad scrum to the
And so I have a feeling what they will do is they will say your check-in is at a certain time, and then you can immediately board or something like that. They won't have the groups like they have for forever.
Yeah.
They'll somehow make check-in.
Oh yeah, that's going to have to change completely. The cattle call boarding group thing. Yeah. So
because it gets pretty crowded.
I'm not mad about that because I don't like the way I don't at all like the way Disney Cruise Line boards their ships. Their boarding process compared to other cruise lines is chaos.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. So that's definitely for sure. So let's see, dining rooms.
I don't know. Well, if it's 50% capacity or so, then you won't really have to worry about it because they can spread people out throughout the restaurant.
Yeah. In some ways, I think Disney Cruise Line is a little bit ahead of the curve on that because they have the rotational dining so that you are eating with the same server team. You almost become like, if you have kids who are distance learning, what's known as a cohort, you almost become like a dining cohort, because you're sitting near the same people every night. You have the same server team every night, so in some ways, I think that's actually better than other cruise lines dining processes. So score 1 for Disney Cruise Line.
In the same area of and will rotational dining stop for a while? I don't know.
I almost think they would stick with it because why not?
Yeah.
But maybe, I mean, that might be easier to just keep people to one dining room rather than have them moving through multiple dining rooms and just change the menu up. I don't know.
don't know. And
again,
then will that
speculation.
Right. Will that affect the entertainment that they have in the venues and stuff like that? Probably, but
yep.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Like some of the nightclubs, some of those nightclubs are pretty tiny. So I don't know if that's going to be affected.
What about the sail away party? Or what about the Halloween on the High Seas party and all of that they have, you know? So
yeah. Sharla and I, we're now like thinking of every time we ever stood in a crowd of people. Halloween on the High Seas is a big one. That lobby.
Well, because they put you in the atrium and it gets pretty crowded in there. It's fun.
It's so much fun, but especially with costumes too. I think that sometimes hinders the, you know. Yeah.
Exactly. Or think about like Shutters, the last night of your cruise, and everybody is piled in Shutters purchasing their photos and things like that. So yeah.
Thought I had muted myself. I had not muted myself, so I apologize terribly for just coughing all over everybody.
That's all right.
Maybe Charlotte can edit that out later, but in the meantime, I'm going to put a cough drop in my mouth because it's very dry here. I apologize. Those of you watching on YouTube are now wildly amused at my watering eyes and the fact that I've turned bright red from coughing.
That's the thing. I can cut all this out of the audio, but I'm not so good at the video.
No, the video is a little harder. That's all right. Me choking.
I have two different versions of the podcast this week. That's totally fine.
That's totally fine. Yeah. So Castaway Cay. That's the other thing I want to discuss. What do you think some of the differences are going to be on Castaway Cay? Is it as easy as just removing half of the lounge chairs? Some of the hammocks?
I don't know. I mean, well, the lunch buffet, that's probably going to be different. And again, it was when we got there, they served us, but normally it's a self-serve kind of thing.
Yep.
They could remove some lounge chairs. There's obviously, it's more open air, so that makes people feel better. However, that doesn't mean that you need to be buddy with your straight neighbor friend. And will they close the bike rentals? Will they close the water slides? Will they limit excursions? I don't know.
We don't know. The other big question mark is the kids clubs. How are those going to be handled? And again, with the 50% capacity reduction, you know, that certainly helps a lot.
Exactly.
This is another thing where I think Disney Cruise Line is well positioned compared to other cruise lines because of the sheer size of their kids clubs. They devote so much square footage. It's going to be a lot easier for them to social distance these kids than on other cruise lines. Right. Other cruise lines have good facilities, but not as big. Right. You just simply don't devote the sheer square footage. So
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. If you have half the kids, you could probably still be okay.
Because I think if you put some of them down in the lab and some of them down in the club and some of them, you know, all the different rooms, you know, this is one of these things where all of a sudden Disney looks like a genius for having that much square footage.
I know, right?
You know, for their kids' clubs. Yeah.
Well, one of the really cool things that they already have in place with their kids' clubs is that the tracking with they basically give the kids a magic band.
Yep.
So I can go pick up Nora and I could say, I'm here for Nora, and they say, okay, Nora is in this room, and they know to the room that she is in.
Yep.
Where she is, and I can walk in there and pick her up. It's that simple.
Which I would think would also help them identify if kids are clumping too much.
Right.
If they can look at that and see like, ooh, geez, we got kind of a cluster going over here, send in one of the counselors to sort of break them up a little bit. You know?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And then like Magic Play Floor, which is so fun. You have a lot of, you know, kids in one space. Maybe they could do half of Magic Play Floor at one time or something like that. I don't know how they're going to handle it.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, but I just given all of these things that we've just discussed, masks, social distancing, potential, you know, changes to the things that we love so much, I'll be honest, I still can't wait to get back on a ship. I still can't wait I will put on a mask. I will wear it. I will social distance. I don't care. I just want to sit on my veranda and order room service and look at the water. Like, I will be completely, I will quarantine in my room. Like, I do not care. That's completely fine by me. I will read my Nook. I will watch my movies. I will sit on my veranda and I will watch the water. Fine.
Yeah.
I will do it. I cannot wait.
Maybe they need to ask for volunteers to come help start up the ships again. You know,
I'm in. Let's go. I'm in. You want me to come test your process? I'm in. I'm totally in. Hit me up, Disney. All right. Well, so that does it for this week's podcast. Heather will be back next week, and she will probably be tan and relaxed and happy, whatever. No, we really are happy for her. Stay tuned. Coming up next is our Patreon Extra, and we are going to be talking about what the heck have we been doing to our houses during this quarantine? Because I know you are listening and you are chuckling because we have all been home for 6 months. And when you spend that much time in your house, you look around and you realize all the stuff you hate. All the little things that really weren't a big deal in your house because you weren't spending that much time there anyway, but now suddenly you're trapped here and it's like paint-a-palooza. So anyway, we're going to be talking about the projects that we have been doing. We want to hear about the projects you have been doing. Go to patreon.com/Disney Park Princess to support us and get our exclusive content. You also get discounts on the merchandise that we talked about earlier and other fun perks. We have an exclusive Patreon Facebook group. We're going to be posting the photos of some of what we've been doing in our Patreon group. But we also just want to thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you to everybody who entered our giveaway. Sherry, keep an eye out for that email. Congratulations on winning that giveaway. We are coming up on episode 100 of the Disney Park Princess podcast. That's crazy. It just seems crazy. We don't know what we're going to do for it yet. So if you have any suggestions about what you think we should do for our 100th episode, email us or post in the Facebook group or do something. Let us know what you think we should do for 100. You can reach us at info@disneyparkprincess.com. You can visit our website at disneyparkprincess.com. Sharla has a new blog this week about staying in shape on your Disney cruise. Very timely. Mm-hmm. Although, again, I'll be sitting like a potato on my veranda. But
you know how. You don't have to do it.
I do know how. I do know how. Yes, I do, because I read your blog. So now I know how. So check that out. Check out our YouTube channel, our Instagram, and our Pinterest page. And that's it. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye. I would stop recording and I'm like, I can't.